away, Aunt. Yeah.
So you like my outline? Okay.
I do. It's very outliney. I like it.
Okay, good. I just dumped it. All right.
I like the
Let
part where you
me
out. I like the part where you outlined everything. That was my favorite part. Yeah. Wait.
Would there be sound on your
It
face?
doesn't matter. It can sound anywhere.
Hi everyone and welcome back to Between Two Coaches. We're on a mission to make fitness more human, snark sold separately. I'm Coach Amanda and I'm joined as always by my co-host.
Coach Nick. That's me. Thanks for joining us so much, everyone. We appreciate it so much. And we have a great episode. And it's just the two of us, like that song they used to sing. And we're talking about external stressors and how they impact your body and your mind and how we coach our athletes through this. And what we personally do to manage the load. That's the kicker, right? All those things. And it's going to be a fun topic because I feel like there's a lot of stress going on in the world. And I feel like there's a lot of feelings of stress and that it can just be compartmentalized over in this little bubble that we all have that isn't real. And we're going to talk about all that, aren't we, Amanda?
We sure are.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Oh,
I don't know that it's going to be that fun, but it's going to be real. It's going to
be real.
It's going to be human. It's going to be real human of us.
Real us. Yeah.
Before we hop into that, why don't you share how your birthday was? Because it was last Thursday.
It was.
Let us in on it.
The podcast didn't come out, so it spoiled my birthday because I was trying to do some troubleshooting, but we figured it out and went up, and that was the thing. So happy belated birthday to the podcast. But it was good. On Thursday, softball was canceled, so we hung out as a family, and we did some cake and some dinner, and we watched a movie, which we argued about. Our typical movie night consists of 30 minutes of arguing because we can't agree on anything. Even if it's someone's night, then we still disagree. And then we pick something and then we make it halfway through and we never finish. And then we pick a new movie next week. I have like 20 movies we've never finished that we've started. So that was fun. And it was a good day. And then we on Saturday had some friends over and they surprised me with a nice cake. We do a nice little cocktail party, seasonal cocktail exchange with some of my old running friends, and we each of the four adults makes a special cocktail for the season. So we did spring, and we drink them and we hang out and we have camaraderie and fun, and our kids run around and destroy one of our houses, and then we clean up and go home. And we've done it like for 5 years now, and it's been a lot of fun. So that was a fun birthday celebration, and yeah, I'm a year older.
What's it like to be 22?
I can tell you about 43, which is very different than 42 so far. So I don't want to ruin it for you when you get there, but it's going to be great.
You are Benjamin buttoning these hoes.
I heard that. Well, whenever I shave my face, I'm literally 10 years younger and I get carded. So yeah, so now I look super young, but yeah, it was good, and finished up my last long runs for the Boston Marathon, which I'm excited about. We're heading up on Friday to see my mom in New Jersey, do an Easter egg hunt, then shipping out to Boston from there. And my wife has an extensive plan of activities before the marathon, always, perfect, ready. Perfect behavior before a marathon. We're doing a duck tour and a museum and the market, and so it'll be great. My kids are coming, and I can't expect them to just sit around. So we're all gonna have some fun, and it'll be great.
No. We may not expect them to sit around.
Yeah.
But we need Coach Nick to sit around. Can you shut it down by 1 p.m. Eastern time on Easter Sunday?
I cannot, because we're doing a duck tour at 4, but I could shut it down post duck tour. But duck tour is a lot of sitting, so that is okay because they'll probably like the once they find out I'm doing the marathon and doctoral, they'll probably like pamper me and they'll hand me like carbs and they'll be like, here's a bagel and here's some graham crackers, pretzel sticks. Sure.
Duck is delicious, so
Yeah.
that's also, it's not very high in carbohydrates, but
So it'll be fun. I have like a bunch of I have a bunch of athletes running and we'll do a little fun shakeout. I will do one shakeout, not 86.
I'm capping
Like
you at 15 minutes shaking out the legs because
yeah,
you are.
but I'm excited. I like the race. I like the atmosphere. We should have different ways of getting more people to be able to run it, but that is a topic for a different topic. But for this, it'll be a fun adventure, hanging out with my athletes, some friends, a lot of friends I know will be there, and just spending time with my family. I don't always bring them to the marathons, so I want to make sure they enjoy it and like are happy to be there too.
They're going to be happy because they're there to support you. Do not try harder than you need to because that's going to be an additional stress on your body.
Did you just pull out from the episode into the intro part? Look at that. You're like an expert at this podcasting stuff.
I am a big dummy, big, small dummy, small 5'2" dummy.
Well, you nailed it
I did.
about the yes,
The
the stress part, not the dummy part. Yeah, I had to clarify before I get hate mail because you don't come after Amanda without getting hate mail these days.
That's not true. Get out of here. Get out of here. Let him come for me.
How is your week?
Let me.
Oh, I feel like you're always caught off guard. That even though I'm going to ask you every single week the same question, I feel like you're always caught off guard. Yeah,
Let me think. I had a good week.
yeah.
I had a good week. It is looking more like spring, effective immediately in New York City. I had to check myself last week when I saw some of those real feel numbers in the 20s and the 30s. And I said, New York, I'm unsubscribing from this. But this week, it looks like we're finally in April and we're seeing some higher temperatures, less of the fuckery. And I'm looking forward to being outside more.
Yeah, we do love nice temps.
So that was like the kind of the theme of last week, me sulking and how we were still in fake spring, and I'm done with fake spring. I'm ready for real spring and I'm looking forward to all of that. There's nothing crazy to report on my end.
All right.
No news is good news.
Well, that's the people say that.
I say that. I say
And
that.
the people and you say that. But I don't know if I subscribe to the thought that spring doesn't exist. It's all fake because it's really basically just summer, Junior. And like the second winter ends, we have like 8 days left of spring, and then it turns into humid and hot. And it's like, I know
I'm
you
fine
love
with
that, but it's just basically summer. It just skips. Like this is we're gonna get a week maybe.
Buckle up. I want to
Buttercup.
sweat in weird places on the subway platform. Give it to me.
I don't. I'll stand inside in the air conditioning all day. I'll run, sweat, and go back inside in air conditioning and never leave.
You would never leave. That sounds terrible. Well,
No.
I'm like a house plant. I just need to be outdoors
And
getting
photosynthesis.
photosynthesizing. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's time to talk about our topic today.
Well, I'm excited.
I brought this up to Coach Nick because it's something that is always on our minds as coaches. But I think because we talk about it so often, we are unaware of how important it is to explain to our athletes. And I think that people really do not understand what stress is. So maybe we start with that. So exercise, running, fitness, even a vinyasa yoga is a stress on the body.
Yeah, it's a good stress, so it doesn't count, right?
No, no, you'd be wrong to think that.
I'm wrong.
All stress is stress. So when we are working with our runners and our clients and they share how their week was and they describe They say it's good, and then they share a list of things that are also a stress on the body and the mind in their day to day, whether that's something going on at work, maybe nothing's going on at work, and that's a stress, right? They're looking for another job because they're like, I do nothing all day and I sit at my desk and I need to be stimulated more, right? Or it's related to family. Maybe they're describing what Nick's upcoming weekend looks like before his stressful marathon, for example.
Yeah.
The environment. Maybe there's something that was going on weather wise. I had friends and clients in Michigan that there was this incredible ice storm that hit that area. And not only did it obviously derail their training, but derailed their lives.
I saw that. That's crazy.
That's a huge stress. What else? Partners, right? Supporting, right? Maybe you're even in a functioning relationship. We got stressed because we got to keep it functioning.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. And then we also have niggles and injuries and chronic pain, right? These are all stresses on the body and they don't exist in a vacuum. What are your thoughts about the the exercise as a stressor or an external stressors like we were talking about? And by we, I
Yeah,
mean
it's a
I.
lot of stuff, right? So you mentioned a lot of things, and a lot of things that people tend to think don't really matter, right? Because you just ignore it and you just carry on, right? Because that's what we're taught ever since we're a kid. Just do everything possible in your entire life, never complain, then do more, and then there's no excuses, right? I think people always get so worried that they're, oh, I can do air quotes, making excuses, when half the time it's just reasons or things, or it's not an excuse to say, oh my god, my day was absolutely terrible, I drank no water and I got no sleep and I missed my run today. Okay, yeah, you missed your run. It sounds like a
To be
valid reason
expected.
to miss your run. Like, okay, we're good here. Like, we're so worried about making sure we don't make excuses that we tend to try and push every one of these things aside as it's not really that big of a deal. And maybe one of them we can. Maybe you just had a rough day at home, so you're like, all right, well, I can just push that aside. I can still get my run in. But like sometimes it's like, oh, I'm having relationship problems and, I have this injury and I got 1 hour of sleep. I didn't drink any water. I haven't eaten me food since like 7 a.m. It's like 2 p.m. And I'm still going to get that running because I got it. Like, well, now this vacuum that doesn't exist is full up of shit. And we got to not do that. And so, yeah, I think we often try and act like everything's fine and that we can still do our stuff. One of the things I do with my athletes is I have this we use Final Surge. I put this little note on their calendar every Sunday and it's just like weekly recap. And it's like, how was your week? And it's like, how was your stress levels? And I just give them like a 1 to 10 scale. And I give them like, how did you feel that week? How was like, what's going on in your life? Anything you want to add? And, some athletes are just real quick with like, oh yeah, this and this, and like here's something's going on. But over time, a lot of them are like writing dissertations of like what's going on and like the stresses in their lives, or like giving me scores, and like they'll usually be like, stress is a 2 and sleep is great and this and that, and then all of a sudden it's 1 week it's like all of them are terrible, and all of a sudden the first thing I do without really questioning is I go in and sort of modify the next week, and then I kind of chat to them about it. But like I'm using this system sort of as a check-in, because over time, if they're always putting great, 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 and then 1 week they're not, there's a good indicator that like, hey, there's probably a lot going on, because for a runner or a person to say that they have to lower their score or to say things aren't okay means it's probably a lot worse than it's just not okay. It's probably really, really bad.
I do the same thing, but just in a different fashion. So I will do that on Wednesdays or Thursdays, but I'll insert myself in their inbox with,
Ooh.
how are you feeling? I saw X, Y, and Z, whatever's going on. And in my private clients, I start the strength training session the same. It's, how was your week? What were you up to yesterday? Like, I want to know very recently what impacted their lives, even if they believe it's small. That way we can move forward appropriately with the efforts and the workouts prescribed, right? Because we got to be flexible within that framework. I also, my athletes, there's a good chunk of them that have no problem. If they're listening, they are listening to this, they have no problem writing the dissertation. I get the Old Testament version of everything, and I'm happy to read it. I'm
Yeah.
happy. I'm happy to read it. We love some reading material.
The more information, the better. Most of the time, it's how we are as coaches. Well, I mean, but we can't coach with no information. So,
That's true. I'm joking because there really is no TMI. And
yeah.
we spoke about that on season 1. There's no TMI with, at least for Coach Nick and I. So I co-sign all of that. We mentioned something earlier and I wanted to bring it up because I'm certain that the physical therapists who we know and love, like Vicky and Leah and Winnie, all of our favorite physical therapists would co-sign what I'm about to say. And it's that all the stresses on the body that we mentioned can also accumulate and result and manifest physically in your body. Any niggles or injury or pain that comes up, for the most part, yes, injuries are complicated, niggles are complicated. But if you are in a very stressful point in your life outside of training, in addition to training, it's putting your body in a more, or your body's more susceptible to experiencing these niggles and these little injuries, flare ups.
Yeah. I think that's other thing that's never, because there's not like concrete, because injury to a lot of people can feel like it can come from anything, right? Oh, just was running too much, or oh, it's just that thing that always pops up. But like, again, because we're hand waving away stress, we don't, and there's no direct connection that, my God, all these things are out in my life and now I'm injured. Those are connected because you can't always purposely connect those dots. It's a lot of times people don't think that their stress is impacting their running performance or impacting how they get injuries, right? It's always, this was just too much, like I'm running too much, I'm doing too much. So I think it's important to sort of stop. And like there was a time in the podcast a little while ago where I mentioned that I was going through a lot of stress when they sent us back to the office and was trying to handle doing this coaching thing and this podcast and going back to the office immediately. Again, I said I always thought I'd go back to the office eventually, but like not from where I was to 100% immediately. And so there's just a lot of stress, and then everything was coming out. It was just like all weighing on me. So my running I just stopped. I didn't do long, and especially I cut long runs, which was the biggest thing because those are always the most impactful on my body, probably for most people. And I was just like, well, I'm not going to do an 18-mile long run and on this high level of stress and risk a giant injury because I know it's not going to go well. And I'd rather let this calm down, and then when things are better, then I'll put in those runs. That's what I did. And so they came much later in my training block than they probably would have, but they still came and still got them in. And I just adapted to life as it was.
I love that for you.
Well,
Yeah,
thanks.
I really do. I really do. You listen to your body in a real way, practicing what we preach here. So I'll talk a little bit more about me later, but let's go into how we support our athletes through these stressful moments when maybe they don't even recognize them themselves, right? I think we are, not that it's easier for us to coach ourselves into an unplanned rest day, cutting long runs, taking care of our bodies, et cetera, et cetera. But I think as fitness professionals who've been professional for a while now, we can kind of recognize the signs and symptoms, whereas our our athletes and general population has a harder time. So some things that we are aware of, even without them recognizing that it's a stressor on the body, is when all these things come up in our athletes' personal lives, we take the reins and build in extra rest days or just modify training, right? It's all about that load management on the body to put the athlete in the best position possible to not only support their training, but support how they're existing day to day. in their life outside of training.
Yeah. I like what you said there. I think it's hard for a lot of us to be careful with ourselves, right? We have our own bias, right? And so like it's not as much as I talk about, oh, this great example here, like it's still hard for me a lot of times to be objective with myself and say, oh yeah, should take today off. Like I don't always know. And so I'm working the best I understand myself, but with all the factors that come into it. But as coaches, I think we're that layer on top of an athlete. And so we, as you get to, as your coach gets to know you better, and it's works as a two-way communication street, like yeah, our coach should be involved more than just some numbers in a log. But the athlete has to also be willing to share. But there's plenty of times that Amanda and I have noticed with our athletes where we can pick up something that's happening pretty much before the athlete, probably because they're living it. And it's hard to acknowledge in that moment that this is a lot when we're like, oh no, this has happened maybe before, or we can see how things are different with you, or we can hear in your comments what's going on. So we're going to adapt before you even get a chance, right? Before you even go too far, before we go down this slippery slope. So that comes with, knowledge and information. Like we have to learn, right? We have to learn about our athletes. We have to learn about what is too much and what really matters in running. Because I also think a lot of times athletes get so caught up in the plan, which is a plan and not a concrete in stone thing that if it's not followed 100% perfectly, you will fail everything in your life. It's a plan, which literally means the second it's written and given to you, it will change and should change. And so sometimes athletes are so stuck about, oh, I have to get this run in, I have to get this long run, I have to get this workout in because it's in the plan, that they will do anything they can to follow it. And as coaches, it's we're understanding from our own lives, from the million, from the not million, but from the many people we've coached, how that run won't matter. Like that one run isn't going to change the whole entire training block. That a week where we're down and we build from isn't going to change everything. So we want to adapt and we quickly adapt. And so it's this kind of not even experience, which we have, right? We've both been doing this for a while, but like it's also just knowing a human being and knowing what they need and knowing how to support them that matters the most. And that's where you can, as a coach, can come in because you make the difference. Like if you tell your athlete to push through this moment and you know push through all that stress, they're going to do it because they believe you have their best guidance in. So make sure in that if you ever feel that, if there is ever a moment that matters, that you use it sparingly and not every time something happens, just keep doing it, keep pushing because you'll burn them out. And you're here to be their co pilot, kind of leading them and showing up for them that way.
Trainer or run coach will read what isn't written and hear what isn't said. That's, I think, what you're getting at. And I do think that not only comes from experience, I think that comes from getting to know a person and having a relationship with them. I think that, and I only know this because I've been playing around more recently with this AI stuff just to see what
Ooh, it's so smart.
it's so smart, but it's not that, which is why it's so problematic to not have a human in your corner when it comes to your physical health and your mental health. Really require human connection in order for you to thrive, because that tool AI is really only as smart as the information that you are giving it. It can't feel out the things that we just shared.
No, it can't. And it'll be scary when the AI learns empathy and compassion and support and those things and can do that because then the robots are coming. But before that point, at least, when it comes to it can feel cheaper to go online and get your plan through AI, and that's fine. But like the problem with that it's always going to be is that it cannot adapt. It cannot support in the way you need. It's going to push you too far. And you don't have a human who has that sort of understanding of the bigger picture and the moments that exist, right? How to suss out what's too much, what's too little, what's going on. A lot of these programs are people will say are running them into the ground and injuries and such. And there's a reason for a lot of that is because there is no communication back. And if you're relying on yourself to be objective, it's going to be hard for a lot of us, right? A lot of us will not be as objective as they need to be in the moments when push come to shove and you're trying to figure out what to do. And so, um, yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah. Also wanted to say that how do you show up as the oh, here we go. I'm reading a note. So we have as you all know, you may not know this. We have a Google Doc and I was starting to read something. I'm like, oh, that point is maybe next point. I don't remember reading that, but maybe I wrote it. Did I write that? About
You
being the
did.
best mom? I
Yeah.
did?
Cause I would have probably wrote dad, honestly,
Oh
because
wow.
I'm a boy.
I'm
Yeah.
neither, and I don't know why. I must have blacked out when I put that in the outline. I was using an example from a recent conversation. I mean, I talk every single day of mine and Nick's occupation is supporting the people we work with in managing stress. So, one of the things I guess that came up for last week was the parents who I train. And I'm thinking, like, when I think about the amount, the people who I work with, the majority of them are parents and how they show up to be the best parent they can be, the best mom, the best dad they can be for themselves means that they have to be able to carve out space for themselves in order to grow, which also may mean I can't train today. I need time for myself to just be a human being instead of a human doing. And
Ooh,
so I just wanted to I just came up with that
I
immediately.
like that. It should be in a quote book somewhere.
A what?
A quote book. You know, those books that people buy with all those quotes in them.
People do that.
Should. I don't know.
Okay,
Maybe they
well,
don't. Yeah.
I don't know. All I know is that I'm not looking for more work. So if you are listening to this and you want to add it to your quote book, have at it. Have at it. So it's just a little example, I guess, from the day when then I was curating this outline for us on the one day that I've curated it.
Yeah,
Um,
it is hard. I think it's hard for parents though too. I mean, like this another we talked about a lot of stressors up top, but we didn't mention like, I mean we said family, but parents sort of struggle to, and we talked with Shanna last week about it, like carving a place for themselves as they get older, as their journey changes, right? What that looks like feels very different and can feel, it's hard to feel the stress as a parent because it's just an inherent duty of being a parent, right? And so we sort of, if we're ever shoving anything to the side, we're shoving that one to the side the quickest because it's just like, oh, well, this is my life, we joke. And it's that stuff factors in a lot, right? Like doing a run, but like your kids are interrupting you a lot, but you love them and you're upset that they're upset. And, how do you make that work? Or, your kids are crying when you walk out the door. Whenever Kelly used to go for a run, the kids would lay by the front door and cry until she came back. And I'm like, okay, we could do anything. Here's candy, here's ice cream. Want to go hang out? And they're like, nope, we just rather sit here and cry. And I'm like, cool. But like, then you can't, like, I tried so hard. I eventually got them away from the door, obviously. But then, like, I tried never to tell Kelly until she hears this episode that they were like sad because then that's like an extra burden on her of like, well, now she feels bad leaving. I don't want her to know that, even though I'm like, trying to drag these kids away from holding the door handle to like eat ice cream and watch a movie. So
you
there's
did
these
the
like,
best you could.
yeah, and there's a lot of this stress that parents carry with us on finding that time for ourselves and that space to grow, and it's hard, and it's all part of this messy thing that's called stress and exercise together. So just remember as parents, like that's another factor, and it's okay to feel certain ways certain times, and you deserve that ability to have your exercise.
Yes.
And yeah, it's going to make you a better parent too.
You do deserve it. And I mentioned it on last week's episode. I don't have a pot to piss in when it comes to being in a relationship with a child. But I will say that one of my grievances is with partners who are not supportive, who could be more supportive of their partners and the experiences that not only bring them joy, but are promoting their physical health. So when I see a mom or a dad, does not discriminate, but for the most part, it's a mom, mom working their ass off to manage the home, support their kids. There are some things that they have to do that moms have. When I say have to do, I'm thinking of our friend of the pod and recent personal recorder for her marathon this weekend, Francesca, who
Yeah.
literally, yeah, who she shared, let's wake up at 3 a.m. to run my ninth marathon. And she's like, we had to drive here. She had a breastfeed before that. I'm like, oh my God. I just want to. I wish that and she has an incredibly supportive partner. But damn, damn, I wanted to bottle that up and send it to the marathon that she ran to be like, be so fucking serious. This woman deserves to be in the sub elite.
Yeah.
So anyway, I recognize that having a supportive partner is a privilege and it shouldn't be, because that really supports a person's health. And
Yeah.
anyway, I just wanted to share that.
No, I think two things. One, there was one time she had a video up of like, get ready with me for my run at 1:30 in the morning. And I think I wrote back like, I'm still awake from last night at 1:30 in the morning because I stay up too late sometimes and watch some shows. And I was like, and you're just getting up for your run. I was like, I feel anyway. And that and
Great.
to the supportive partner thing. I think what I find a lot is couples are together and they have their certain things, and there's independence that exists in relationships and should exist when you're going through your relationship, maybe even before kids, even after kids, everyone needs their time. But and then all of a sudden you have kids, and like people feel now like they're trying to protect their independence, their time. And so like someone else wants to add in, oh, I want to exercise now that I'm a mom, or I want to have this new journey, and someone feels like upset, either partner, of like, oh well, how are we going to make this work? We lost all this time with the kids, who's watching them. So I feel like that always starts out, and I hate it because it just feels like people can't now like have. And I'll say this by prefaces by saying I was very worried when I was having my kid. I think I shared the story where I ran like 48 races in 2016 because I was like, this is the end. I'll never race again. I'll never compete at a high level again. I could be labeled as dramatic sometimes. In this moment, I was very much like, this is the end. And so I ran every race I possibly could, 3 races some weekends. And then, you know what? It didn't really change that much. I mean, it changed. Obviously, I have kids and I bring them around and we had to move things around, but I still ran plenty of races. I still advanced in my careers. I think but it was important that then I made sure Kelly got her gym time, or we found like we both needed that stuff, right? And so to your point, like being a supportive partner, having a supportive partner is super important, and like people need to just be able to have that part of their life, and everyone should be able to adapt and support.
You're an icon, Nick. Okay, don't you forget it, because they don't make them like you.
Because I ran all those races in 1 year. Thanks.
No, I don't support that. If I was your coach that year, I would have sent the authorities to your house to
I
have
was my coach
off
that year.
to the couch. Yes, shocking.
Shocking, shocker there, guys, right?
Oh my goodness. Is there anything, if you want to start, is there anything that you personally do to support stress, to support your mental health, that ultimately supports your physical health? What are some things that you have in your practice?
Ooh, let's see. I've learned to be very accepting of moving around rest days. I used to have a schedule that was like Monday was my rest day and it was always my rest day. And it caused a lot of pre-kids. It was very easy. I controlled my life and my schedule if I didn't get sick. Post-kids, I was very much like, okay, well, someone's sick, something's going on, someone's got a game. So I became a lot more flexible to adapt to the stress and be like, oh no, you know what? Thursday is my rest day. Or we're adding an extra unplanned rest day is okay too. But like even just at a minimum, being able to flex my rest day to whatever day I needed it that week. That was super important. Being able to cut runs shorter when I need to. If, there used to be a mindset of, oh, if I'm not running for 6 miles, I shouldn't even go out. And that sounds crazy, but like I used to run more miles. But, now it's like, oh, if I have 30 minutes, like that's my run for today. And it's okay. I don't have to do a second run because 30 minutes isn't enough, right? I do have, there's a certain limit where I'll put on clothes and go for a run, but it's not 30 minutes. That aside, just being accepting of, okay, this is my run for the day. This is okay. This is the time I have. Being okay with when runs, I ran a lot by effort. So being very okay with is not the numbers not numbering, right? The pace is not pacing the way I need them to, because stress mattered, right? There was a lot of times, even in my peak, when I had very stressful days, and I could have written myself into the ground, rode myself into the ground if I did obsess about these numbers on a day when I'm home with my kids sick and I'm worried I'm getting sick, or, I'm dealing with something, or it's a stressful day at work and then my kids are crying all night and up like, and I'm like, oh, gotta go run this number in a workout or I'm not fit. So I got very much involved in effort and, not really worrying about where the numbers lined up when it was all said and done, but just knowing that I worked hard and knowing that stress in my life would make it harder. So if I'm running these numbers when I'm this stressed, imagine what I could do on a race day when I wasn't stressed, where I had that one morning where like I could have a little bit less stress because it's race day. So, that kind of stuff, being willing to run with friends and others, no matter what their pace are, because sometimes that brings me more joy. And I used to be like, okay, well, a run needs to be this. And if I can't get this, then, I'll just do it by myself. But as I got older, it was more running with friends and athletes and doing their paces and not being one of those people who are like, let's do a group run together. We'll run easy. And then I'm two-stepping everyone the whole time, trying to run my pace. And no one enjoys that, right? Don't be that person who invites people to a group run and then forces your pace. The rule of thumb is if you're the faster one in the group run, you run to the slower person in the group run. That's always the rule of thumb. And if you're not okay with that, then don't come to the group run. That's the rule. That's always
Take
the
the thumb
rule.
off. Yep.
So yeah, those are some of the things I did, sort of, and then injuries, just being okay, being like, hey, this doesn't feel right. Maybe it's from stress, maybe it's not. Just acknowledging all of my stressors and saying, okay, well, I'm gonna rest this injury today because life is hard, or I'm not feeling well, or things like that. Instead of being like, oh, I got to push. Yeah, I think that's my list. What about you?
Sounds great.
Thanks.
I There are a couple of things that I've done recently, and then there are a few things that have worked for me over the last several years. My job, everyone's job is stressful, period. My job is not only My job is less a stress in the way that other people's jobs are. Mine is constantly a physical stress. So, one of the ways that I've managed that is, and this is something that has been in the works for many years, I've removed a fourth of my workload, which was huge, giving me a full day of physical rest, which I had not had for ever. So I omitted and did not add anything for classes down. So it's been great to have feet up on Sundays. Speaking of Sundays, one of the things that supports my mental health is spending time with loved ones who don't give a shit about fitness and running. And they're just like, if Amanda's happy and healthy, that's what matters. And I think that that's a very health promoting environment to be in. So there is a benefit to having a non-runner family. My family is incredibly into their fitness. I think we've gone into that in previous episodes about the eating disorder past, but nevertheless, they want me to be happy and healthy, and that's what's important. The other related to fitness is I don't track a lot of my workouts during the week. And when I say that, I mean strength training is a huge part of my life. And I never turn my watch on for that. I'm not looking at it. I'm not tracking it. I'm not adding it anywhere. And I've noticed as a fitness professional, especially as an instructor, when I'm teaching, folks are so fixated on where their heart rate is on their smartwatch that it's actually like I can tell that they're more stressed
Yeah.
just looking at their watch. And that's it's the same goes for running. I removed Strava several I had it to like track my shoe mileage, but otherwise removed Strava. I don't exist on there. I think that it wasn't stressing me out, me personally, but the environment was incredibly toxic. I just saw people constantly on there in the same way that people are constantly, I guess, on other social media platforms, really not knowing when to shut it down or to stop comparing themselves. I also take rest days. And as in the last couple of years, I wasn't always like this. I've become less rigid with taking on plan rest days, which have helped me a lot, and having people and professionals in my corner to tell me it's okay. Like my physical therapist, Dr. Vicky.
Friend of the pod.
Hell yes. The other things that are a little less related to fitness, but that are important to mental fitness. One thing I do weekly is I go and visit my acupuncturist,
Ooh,
and I just lie horizontal for an hour and a half. He just puts a red light over me. He's like, okay, bye, Amanda. And I just pass out for the most part. And then I
hour
wake
and a
up.
half. Oh my gosh.
I ask,
I'd go crazy.
it's a, no, it's the
Feels like
best.
too long. I do like 30 minutes or something. I don't know.
Oh,
I
like 30 minutes.
I can't be in my head that long without like
It's the
something else.
best.
Yeah.
No, it's so good to not interact with humans for that long. Yeah, so I have the red light over me, got the needles in me, the electric stimulation. I leave there a different person. And not because I do everything to manage and support any niggles that come up in my body. I take rest days, manage my nutrition to the best of my ability. I increase my nutrition anytime injuries come up. I work with a physical therapist. I don't care if those needles and that red light is placebo. It makes me feel relaxed. And that's what's most important.
Yeah.
I feel relaxed when I'm there, and I feel relaxed when I leave. So I make that happens every week. And something that Coach Nick and I have also spoken about on this podcast is how we've engaged in therapy. And
Yeah.
that's incredibly important to your mental health, to have an outlet outside of fitness and running to support you.
I just saw my therapist virtually on Friday and it went really well. So go therapy.
Yes,
It's
yes, yes.
been it's been great for me. Let's see. Strava, I still use it, but I don't ever go on and do much on it, but it's my training log at this point, so I just log my runs in, and if they get screwed up, then I don't know how many miles I ran for the week. That's like, and then I track shoes, but I only have one pair of shoes in there. It's my Brooks Ghost I got from like 8 years ago, and it has like 23,000 miles on the pair right now, and it's like time for new shoes. I keep forgetting to add new ones in, so I just have this one pair that just gets all my runs. So that's my Strava use, and then GPS. I hear you on GPS watches and like being in the right zone and pace, and it's like, I tell a lot of people run by effort, run by feel, and I feel like this generation is struggling with that a lot. Not generation, just these runners of wow, that technology is there. A lot of people struggle with that. I grew up with the idea of like, I don't know what pace I'm running. I would do we had a loop from the school, and in high school, and we thought it was 5 miles because we drove our car once on the route and we'd run it. And, I'd finish in 43 minutes and I'd be like, all right, I don't know what that is, what pace, but we're done. And, we'd run the track, and that was the only time I'd sort of know, because 400 meters is 400 meters on track. But like, there was no feedback loops. It wasn't like, look down your watch, this pace. Okay, you're on pace. It'd be like you run 200 meters and you double it, and you're like, that's our pace. And you do some math. But like, same thing with runs. Like, we would just do a long run. We wouldn't know how far it was. We'd think it's 16 to 18 miles. We'd finish and we're like, 18 miles for the day. Okay. 2 hours and 30 minutes. Okay. Run's done. Like, I spent so much of my life. That run was successful for me because I felt when I was done that I worked a little bit hard, that I finished, I wasn't dead, and that I ran long. Same thing at workout, same thing at everything. A lot of it was just needing this constant feedback on my wrist. And so when I say I learned feel, I finish runs now and I do not know what my pace was on almost all my easy runs. I never ever look once. I never look down. I finish it. I upload it to Strava. I never go back and look at it. I don't know what my easy pace is.
Me
Probably
too.
somewhere in the eights, maybe in the sevens, high. That's all I know. I don't care. I know that I don't feel exhausted when I'm done, and I know that I'm not like dry heaving, and I'm not like breathing real heavy all run. So it's fine.
Yes, yes, all of that. Yes. Similarly, I don't know how easy my easy run is. I know that my chorus tells me when I'm too relaxed, and I'm like, girl, please let this heart rate dip.
Yeah, and we don't know your pace either, because it always says la la la, so we don't know how to convert that to numbers yet. Once I
Yeah.
figure out the conversion rate, I'll let everyone know.
It's just the only time that I share pacing is when I'm really trying to convince. Oh, it happened recently. I was trying to convince a couple of my athletes separately. This came up. They were sharing with me their pace, and they had this weird. It's not weird because it's so normal. It's honestly so normal. Runners believe that if they're running slower than a certain time, that means that I don't know what happens. They explode. I don't know. And generally it's like 10 minutes. I don't know, 10, 11 minutes. I don't know. And so when I disclose to them, because they happen to know what my my race pace time is, when I disclose to them that I was running slower than them, like it was like, look at this screenshot. I don't normally share this with you, but I just wanted to share with you why I'm telling you to slow the F down. They're like, oh, they were like, what? Also, you stop at crosswalks? And I said, yes, I do.
Yeah, but you got to jog in place.
Sometimes I do just to keep warm.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do just to
F with
feel
people.
alive. Right.
No, you're
But yeah,
right.
pace is not easy. That's a great example. Easy effort is a range of paces based on intensity, not numbers.
Yep. Or as our amazing Elizabeth always writes on her Instagram, easy is an effort, not a pace. I do feel like there's a lot of people who get caught up in, I can never run 8 or 9 or 10 or whatever on my easy runs. It always has to be slower. I'm not working hard enough, which is, again, absolutely wrong scientifically, logically, any way you want to carve it up. It's wrong. There is no pace for your easy runs. That's not the purpose of them. But yeah, I mean, and that's why stress factors in, because your runs will change based on how stressed you are. That should be a common thing, that when you go out, you should be able to go, I feel really stressed today. My pace will probably be slower today, and that's okay. And maybe some days it's not, because you just feel great. Again, you're listening to your body, so that's cool, wonderful. If you're ignoring your body and forcing it, that's not cool. That's not wonderful. That's doing everything that we talked about today, the opposite of that. So don't do that. Don't be goofus. Be gallant, right?
Excuse me?
You never the highlights books. There was the Goofus and the Gallant. They were the two guys, and one did the wrong thing and one did the right thing.
Where do you store all this information? Because
It's
the movie quotes,
yeah.
the highlights, character, where do you store it?
I don't know. I feel like I'm like that person where like new information comes in, the old information comes out. So I'm probably losing like critical things while I remember all this other garbage. But yeah, I don't know. I remember stuff.
In conclusion, dear listener, stress is stress. And we want you to know you're not a robot. You're a beautiful human. Some of you more beautiful than others. But
Agreed.
that shouldn't stress you out, right, Nick?
No, don't be stressed about that stuff. Be amazing. Yeah.
That's good advice. That's very good advice. It's very good advice. And you learned that in your old age, I'm
I
guessing.
did, and in highlights.
Did you're the same person who goes, it is what it is, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, it is what it is. Yeah.
Did we do it? Is
We
it done?
we did it. Yeah, we're doing it. And we did it.
Couple of things of note before we hang up the call, because I know we're on the phone with y'all. If you're not already a member of the Patreon community, head on over and join us. It's so fun there. It's more unhinged than anything we have going on here. Almost,
Yeah,
not
almost.
quite. I also am getting, and I'm sure Coach Nick is too, questions about discount code for Crank Sports. Crank Sports. That's one of our gels of choice here on Between Two Coaches. We have a handy dandy discount code for you. Feel free to use it. You not only support the pod, but you support your pockets because you get a little discount. B as in between, two, the number, C, coaches. B2C at checkout will get you some coin off and you'll support your favorite podcast. Other ways to support us is to give us a thumbs up, subscribe on YouTube, as well as a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to pods. And we will see you, Coach. Are we getting? We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yes, maybe we'll figure it out.
Oh, it's
Maybe two
it's going to
weeks.
be
2 weeks.
stay tuned
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
Coach Nick is shuffling off to Boston.
I might do the episode from my car. We'll see.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. Okay.
Yep.
All right,
Yeah.
everyone. I don't know that I. We're gonna have a. We're gonna have to have a post pod
Management
discussion.
decision. Management meeting.
I may have to be the manager here because I don't know that you can be trusted to manage yourself. Very well. That's half for now, everyone.
Bye.